Listen, child. Listen closely to the wind tonight. Do you hear it? That whisper riding the back of the evening breeze? It is the voice of the ancestors, carrying a warning older than the baobab tree. A child left alone is a village burning. Before we begin, if stories like this touch your heart, please like the video, subscribe for more, and tell us in the comments where in the world you're listening from. It means a lot to us. Now, let me tell you of a time when the earth still remembered the footsteps of the gods, when the village of Uzoma stood proud beneath the golden eye of the sun. The soil there was red as blood, the air thick with the scent of smoked fish and roasted plantain. At night, the drums spoke in tongues, and the children danced until their shadows grew long. But in this village, there lived a woman named Adaeze, whose heart was heavy with grief. Adaeze was a weaver, her fingers swift as river currents, her cloths so fine they shimmered like moonlight on water. But her beauty hid a sorrow. Her husband had gone to the spirit world too soon, leaving her with their only son, Kofi, a boy of 7 rains. Kofi was bright-eyed, his laughter like the chime of cowrie shells, but Adaeze, burdened by her loom and her loneliness, often left him alone while she traveled to distant markets. "Stay inside, little firefly," she would say, kissing his forehead. "The world outside these walls is not for children." And she would leave him with nothing but a bowl of groundnuts and the company of shadows. But the spirits do not sleep. One evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, Adaeze was delayed by a storm. The market women scattered like ants, and she took shelter beneath the great Ekuku tree. The same tree the elders warned never to stand beneath after dark, for it was said that the Ekuku was a doorway, and the things that waited on the other side, they were hungry. Back in the village, Kofi sat on the dirt floor, tracing shapes in the dust. The wind howled through the cracks in the walls, and the oil lamp flickered, casting long, twisting shadows. Then a knock. Not at the door. Beneath the floor. Kofi froze. The knocking came again, slow, deliberate, and then a voice soft as rotting leaves. "Little one, why are you alone?" And the floorboards began to shift. There is an old saying in the land of our ancestors: when the earth speaks, only fools refuse to listen. Kofi's breath caught in his throat. The voice beneath the floor was not human. It was too deep, too wet, as if bubbling up from the belly of a swamp. The knocking came again, harder this time, shaking the dried palm leaves strewn across the floor. "Little one," the voice hissed, "your mother is not here to protect you." Kofi scrambled backward, his heart a drumbeat in his ears. He had heard the village elders whisper of such things, spirits that lived beneath the earth, waiting for the lonely, the forgotten, the left behind. Outside, the wind screamed through the thatched roofs of Uzoma, carrying with it the smell of wet soil and something else, something sour, like old meat. The oil lamp flickered wildly, and in its dying light, Kofi saw the dirt between the floorboards begin to move. Grains of sand trembled, shifting as if something beneath was digging. Then a hand, black as burnt wood, fingers too long, nails curled like thorns. It clawed at the opening, widening the gap. Kofi wanted to scream, but his voice had fled like a frightened bird. The thing in the earth chuckled, a sound like pebbles grinding in an old man's throat. "Come, child. Your mother will not return before the hyenas sing." And then, a voice from outside. "Kofi." It was Nyoka, the old medicine woman who lived at the edge of the village. Her voice was cracked but strong, cutting through the night like a knife. "Kofi, open this door." The hand beneath the floor froze. The thing hissed, a sound that made Kofi's skin prickle. Nyoka pounded again. "Now, child." Kofi stumbled to his feet and yanked open the door. Nyoka stood there, her face lined with urgency, her eyes reflecting the storm's fury. She held a gourd filled with something that smelled sharp and bitter, ground herbs and crushed bones. Without a word, she stepped inside, her gaze locking onto the shifting floor. She spat into the gourd, then flung its contents at the gap. The earth screamed. A howl, deep and guttural, shook the hut. The hand recoiled, fingers curling in pain as smoke rose from where the herbs had landed. The voice beneath the floor shrieked, "This is not over, old woman." Then silence. The floor was still. Nyoka grabbed Kofi's shoulders, her grip firm as iron. "Where is your mother?" Kofi's lips trembled. The market." Nyoka's face darkened. "Foolish woman," she muttered. "Does she not know what walks this land when children are left alone?" She pulled Kofi close, wrapping him in her threadbare shawl. "Listen to me, little one. There are things in this world, old things, hungry things, that wait for the unprotected. Your mother has left a door open in the spirit world by leaving you unwatched." Kofi swallowed hard. What was that? Nyoka's voice dropped to a whisper. "An Ekuku, a buried one. They are the souls of those who were forgotten in life, and now they seek company in death." Outside, the storm raged on. But inside, the air was thick with the scent of burnt herbs and fear. Nyoka knelt, pressing a small leather pouch into Kofi's hands. "Wear this. It will keep the shadows at bay for now." But as she turned to leave, Kofi grabbed her wrist. "Don't go." Nyoka's face softened. "I must find your mother before the Ekuku does. Stay here. Do not open the door for anyone but me." And with that, she vanished into the storm. Kofi stood alone again, clutching the charm, listening to the wind howl like a grieving spirit. Then, a new sound. Scratching. Not beneath the floor this time. At the window. There is a proverb the elders whisper when the moon is high. A child's tears water the roots of evil. Adaeze ran. The storm lashed at her back, the wind screaming like a wounded beast. The market had been a blur of panic. Women grabbing their wares, children crying, the sky splitting open with thunder. But none of that mattered now. Only one thought pounded in her skull, louder than the rain. Kofi. Alone. She had felt it first as a chill down her spine, then as a pull in her chest, like a rope tied around her heart. Something was wrong. The ancestors were shouting in her blood. Her bare feet slipped in the mud as she sprinted past the great Irako tree, its branches thrashing like angry spirits. She should not have stopped there. She should not have lingered. But the storm had come too fast, and now, a shadow moved at the edge of the path. Adaeze froze. There between the trees stood a figure. Tall. Thin. Too thin. Its limbs bent at wrong angles, its head tilted like a bird's. And its eyes. Oh, sweet ancestors, its eyes were white as bone. It smiled. Adaeze stumbled back, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The thing took a step forward, its feet not quite touching the ground. "Mother!" It croaked, its voice like dry leaves crumbling. "You left him. Now we will take him." Then it was gone. Adaeze didn't wait to see where it went. She ran faster, her lungs burning, her legs screaming. The village gates loomed ahead, but the air smelled wrong, like rotting fruit and wet ash. She burst into her hut, her voice raw. "Kofi!" The boy sat huddled in the corner, Nyoka's charm clutched in his shaking hands. His eyes were wide, his face streaked with tears. "Mama," he whimpered. Adaeze fell to her knees, pulling him into her arms. "I'm here, my light. I'm here." But the relief was short-lived. Nyoka stood in the doorway, her face grim. "You were foolish, Adaeze." Adaeze looked up, her throat tight. "I didn't." "You did," Nyoka snapped. "The Ekuku have tasted your son's fear. They will not stop now. Outside, the wind died suddenly. The hut grew eerily quiet. Then, tap, tap, tap. On the roof, Kofi whimpered, burying his face in Adaeze's shoulder. Nyoka's eyes darted upward. "They're here," she whispered. Adaeze tightened her grip on Kofi. "What do we do?" Nyoka moved to the center of the hut, her voice low and urgent. "The Ekuku are drawn to loneliness, to abandonment. They feast on the forgotten." She fixed Adaeze with a piercing stare. "You must mend what you have broken." "How?" Nyoka reached into her pouch, pulling out a small, curved knife and a handful of black salt. "You must give them something else to hunger for." The tapping grew louder, faster. Something scratched at the walls. Nyoka began drawing symbols in the dirt floor, her hands steady despite the fear in her eyes. "Adaeze, when I say the words, you must speak Kofi's name. Loud, clear, as if calling him home from the edge of the world." Adaeze nodded, her heart pounding. Nyoka raised the knife. The air grew thick, heavy. Then, a thud on the roof. Something dropped down the chimney, landing in the fire pit with a hiss. Adaeze caught a glimpse of long fingers, a mouth too wide. Nyoka shouted a word in the old tongue. "Now, Kofi!" Adaeze screamed. The hut shook. The fire roared to life, flames licking at the shadowy figure crouched in the ashes. It shrieked, a sound that tore at the ears, and then, silence. The fire died. The hut was still. Nyoka sagged, her breath ragged. "It is done." Adaeze clutched Kofi, her tears falling into his hair. "Is he safe?" Nyoka's face was grave. "For tonight." She placed a hand on Adaeze's shoulder. "But hear me, daughter. The Ekuku do not forget. And neither should you." Adaeze swallowed hard, the weight of her mistake pressing down on her like a stone. Outside, the first light of dawn crept over the village. But in the shadows between the huts, something watched. A child unseen is a feast for shadows. Dawn came, but no warmth followed. Adaeze stepped out of her hut, Kofi clinging to her waist, and found Uzoma wrapped in an unnatural hush. The usual morning sounds, the clatter of pots, the laughter of children chasing goats, were absent. Instead, the villagers stood in clusters, their whispers sharp as thorns. Then she saw it. Scratches. Deep, jagged furrows in the hard-packed earth, leading from her doorstep to the center of the village. And there, at the base of the sacred gem tree, lay a slaughtered chicken, its feathers blackened as if burned, its eyes gouged out. A sign. A warning. Elder Chibuzo, his face carved with years and wisdom, stepped forward. His voice, usually rich with stories, was cold. "Adaeze, the Ekuku have marked your home." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. A woman pulled her child closer. A man spat into the dirt. Adaeze straightened, though her legs trembled. "I made a mistake. But my son is safe." "Safe," hissed McKenna, the potter, her hands stained with clay. "My baby goats were found dead this morning. Their throats slit, yet no blood spilled. The Ekuku are angry, Adaeze. And they will take more than just goats next time." Kofi pressed his face into Adaeze's side, his small fingers digging into her skin. Nyoka emerged from the crowd, her staff striking the earth with a thud. "Enough. The fault lies not with the boy, but with the mother. And the mother must make it right." Elder Chibuzo's gaze bore into Adaeze. "There is a way, but it will cost you." Adaeze swallowed. "Name it." "The binding," he said. A gasp rose from the villagers. Even Nyoka stiffened. The binding was an old ritual, one not performed since the Great Famine. It tethered a soul to the living world, anchoring them against the pull of spirits. But it demanded sacrifice. Adeeze's voice was a whisper. What must I give? Chibuzo's eyes darkened. A memory. The one you cherish most. The crowd fell silent. Adeeze closed her eyes. The memory rose instantly. Her husband, Kwame, laughing under the moonlight, his hands warm around hers as they danced at their wedding. The last night before the fever took him. To forget that, to lose him again. Kofi sniffled, his tears wet against her hip. Adeeze opened her eyes. Do it. The ritual began at sundown. The villagers formed a circle around the gem tree, their faces painted with white clay, their voices humming a low, mournful tune. Nyoka stood at the center, a bowl of owl's blood and ground elephant bone in her hands. Adeeze knelt before her, Kofi at her side. Place your hands in the bowl, Nyoka commanded. Adeeze obeyed. The mixture was cold, slithering between her fingers like liquid shadow. Nyoka began to chant, her words twisting into the air like smoke. The wind picked up, howling through the branches. Then, a pressure, as if something vast and ancient were leaning down, listening. Nyoka's voice rose. Spirits of the forgotten, hear us. We return what was taken. She pressed a hand to Adeeze's forehead. Give us the memory. Pain. White hot, searing through Adeeze's skull. She screamed as images flashed. Kwame's smile, his voice, the way he used to carry Kofi on his shoulders. Then nothing. A hollow space where love once lived. Adeeze collapsed, gasping. Kofi grabbed her arm. Mama. She looked at him, her breath ragged. She saw her son, his round cheeks, his fearful eyes, but something was missing. A warmth. A knowing. Who was this child? The thought came unbidden, and her stomach twisted in horror. Nyoka's hands trembled as she helped Adeeze stand. It is done. The binding holds. But Adeeze felt it. A tear in her soul. The villagers murmured, some nodding in approval, others eyeing her with pity. Then, a child's scream. Across the circle, little Neka, the weaver's daughter, pointed at the tree. Look, the scratches on the bark were moving, twisting into words. You cannot keep him. The earth beneath them shuddered, and from the forest, a chorus of whispers rose. The whispers from the forest grew louder, slithering through the village like serpents made of sound. The villagers of Uzoma huddled together, their faces pale in the moonlight. The sacred gem tree, once a symbol of protection, now bore the Ekuku's cursed message. A promise of vengeance written in bark and shadow. Adeeze stood frozen, her mind a storm of confusion. She looked down at the small boy clutching her hand. Kofi, they called him, but his name felt strange on her tongue. His tears, his fear, they should have torn at her heart. But inside, there was only a hollow ache. Who was he? The thought sent a bolt of terror through her. Nyoka grabbed her shoulders, her grip like iron. Adeeze, listen to me. The binding took your memory, but not your spirit. The Ekuku feed on doubt. You must fight. Adeeze opened her mouth, but no words came. How could she fight for a child she could not remember loving? Then, a scream. At the edge of the village, the earth split open. From the crack poured shadows, thick as smoke, twisting into shapes too terrible to name. Long limbs, gaping mouths, eyes that burned like dying embers. The Ekuku had come in force. The villagers scattered, their cries filling the night. Kofi whimpered, his small body trembling. Mama. That word. That one word. Something inside Adeeze stirred. A flicker. A spark. Nyoka thrust a bone dagger into her hand. The binding is broken. The Ekuku tricked us. They wanted you to forget. But love is not just memory, Adeeze. It is blood. It is bone. Adeeze looked at Kofi again. And suddenly she knew. Not with her mind, but with something deeper, her soul. This was her son, her child, and no spirit, no curse, would take him from her. The Ekuku surged forward, their whispers now shrieks, their fingers like claws. Adaeze stepped in front of Kofi, the dagger raised. You will not have him. The nearest Ekuku lunged, its mouth unhinging like a snake's. Adaeze slashed. The dagger bit deep, and the creature howled, its form unraveling into black mist. But more came. Too many. Nyoka chanted behind her, her voice raw with power, but even her magic was not enough. Adaeze fought, her arms burning, her breath coming in gasps. Then, a hand grabbed Kofi. One of the Ekuku, sly and quick, yanked him away, its laughter like breaking glass. No! Adaeze screamed. The creature dragged Kofi toward the crack in the earth, its brothers closing ranks behind it. Adaeze ran, her heart pounding, her vision narrowing to one thing, her son. She would not lose him. Not again. Not ever. With a final, desperate leap, she plunged the dagger into the Ekuku's back. It shrieked, its grip loosening. Adaeze snatched Kofi into her arms and ran. Behind her, the earth trembled. The crack widened, the whispers rising to a deafening roar. Nyoka's voice cut through the chaos. Adaeze. The chant. Say it with me. Adaeze turned, still clutching Kofi, and joined her voice to Nyoka's. Spirits of our ancestors, hear us. Blood calls to blood, bone to bone. What was taken, we reclaim. What was lost, we name. The village shook. The crack in the earth slammed shut, crushing the Ekuku beneath it. Silence. Then, a single, golden memory flooded Adaeze's mind. Kwame smiling, holding a newborn Kofi to the sunrise. He is our future, he whispered. Tears streamed down Adaeze's face. She remembered. Dawn broke over Uzoma, the air sweet with the scent of rain-washed earth. The villagers emerged from their huts, their eyes wide with wonder. The Ekuku were gone. The binding was undone, and Adaeze knelt in the dirt, holding Kofi tightly, her tears mixing with his. Nyoka placed a hand on her shoulder. The ancestors have spoken. A child alone is a door left open, but a mother's love. She smiled. That is a door no spirit can breach. Adaeze kissed Kofi's forehead, her voice soft but fierce. Never again, my light. Never again. And as the sun rose, the village knew. This story would be told for generations. A warning. A lesson. A truth. If this story touched your heart, do not let it end here. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to join our family of storytellers. Every click helps us bring more African magic to your screen. Comment below. Where in the world are you listening from? Have you ever felt the whispers of the unseen? Share your thoughts. We read every one. And remember, a child unseen is a village halved. Protect them. Love them. Never leave them alone. Until next time, under the storyteller's moon.